You grew up with a simple idea planted early in your mind. One day, if you worked hard enough, stayed disciplined, and made the right choices, you would own a home. Not a mansion, not luxury, just a place that was yours, a foundation, a sign that you had entered adulthood. This idea was repeated by parents, teachers, banks, and governments. A house was not just a building, it meant stability, safety, proof that life was moving in the right direction. For a long time, this story made sense. It matched reality. People could see a clear path from effort to ownership. The numbers were tight, but they worked. Saving felt purposeful. Sacrifice felt temporary. Today, something feels different. You may be doing everything that was asked of you. You studied, you work full-time, maybe more than full-time. You avoid unnecessary spending. You plan carefully. And still, the house remains distant. Not delayed by a few years, but pushed so far away it starts to feel abstract. This creates a quiet confusion. If the rules were followed, why does the outcome never arrive? Over time, self-doubt begins to form. Maybe the problem is discipline, maybe ambition, maybe timing. But what if it's none of that? What if the promise itself no longer fits the world you are living in? This is not a story about laziness or poor choices. It is about a system that changed its logic without announcing it. A shift so gradual that many people blamed themselves instead of questioning the structure. To understand why your income feels permanently insufficient, we need to step back. We need to look at how the math once worked, how it broke, and why it was never repaired. For decades, the math behind buying a home was simple enough to grasp without a spreadsheet. A house usually cost about 3 times a family's annual income. Sometimes a little more, sometimes a little less. But the relationship stayed stable. This ratio mattered more than most people realized. It meant housing was a functional good, not a speculative one. You didn't buy a home expecting it to outperform everything else in your life. You bought it because you needed a place to live, to raise children, to stay. Because prices stayed connected to income, effort had meaning. Saving for a down payment was difficult, but realistic. A few disciplined years could change your situation. The mortgage was long, but manageable. The house fit inside the rest of life instead of consuming it. This balance shaped behavior. People planned families around it. They chose jobs knowing where they could afford to live. Communities formed slowly because people expected to remain. This system did not require perfect conditions. Interest rates moved. Economies went through recessions. Some people still struggled. But the core relationship between income and housing held. The rules were understandable, and they were shared. Owning a home was not a reward for exceptional performance. It was a normal outcome of participation. If you worked, saved, and avoided major mistakes, ownership was within reach. This is why older generations often speak with confusion today. They remember a different math. When they say, "It was hard for us too," they are not lying. They are describing a system that still worked. What mattered was not that houses were cheap. It was that they were proportionate. That proportion is what quietly disappeared. The change did not arrive with an announcement. There was no single year when people woke up and realized the rules had been rewritten. Instead, the numbers drifted, slowly at first, then all at once. Across major cities, the old ratio fell apart. Homes stopped costing 3 times annual income. They climbed to 5, then 7, then 10. In some places, even more. What was once an exception became normal. A global study examining 95 large cities reached a blunt conclusion. None of them could be called affordable by historical standards. Not one. This was not limited to luxury markets or financial centers. It spread wherever people wanted to live and work. The meaning of price changed. Homes were no longer anchored to local wages. They were priced according to global demand, investment flows, and future expectations. The buyer was no longer just a resident. It was also a fund, a portfolio, a balance sheet. For individuals, the experience felt unreal. Each year of saving was matched by a year of rising prices. Promotions helped, but never enough. The finish line moved faster than the runner. A new psychological pattern emerged. People stopped planning ownership in years and started thinking in decades. Some stopped thinking about it at all. Renting, once temporary, became permanent by default. The most destabilizing part was not the cost itself. It was the loss of logic. When effort no longer connects to outcome, motivation quietly fades. Sacrifice is tolerable when it leads somewhere. It becomes draining when it doesn't. From the outside, it still looks like a personal failure. The language hasn't changed. Work harder. Move farther out. Lower your standards. None of these address the math. The system that once absorbed normal effort now rejects it. This is not a fluctuation. It is a structural shift. It leaves people facing a goal that still exists culturally, but no longer functions economically. The result of this shift is not loud. It does not arrive as a crisis headline for most people. It appears quietly in personal calculations made late at night, numbers written and erased, budgets that never quite close. You may still carry the image of owning a home. The idea remains powerful. It feels responsible, mature, expected. But when income is placed next to price, the conclusion is always the same. The math does not allow it. This creates a specific kind of tension. On the surface, life continues. People work, commute, socialize, and plan. Underneath, there is a steady awareness that something essential is out of reach. Not because of a mistake, but because the structure blocks the path. Over time, this tension changes behavior. Decisions that once felt natural are delayed. Having children feels risky without stability. Changing jobs feels dangerous if it means losing access to expensive cities. Even saving can feel pointless when prices rise faster than discipline. What makes this especially damaging is how personal it feels. Housing is framed as an individual goal. When it fails, the failure feels individual too. Shame replaces analysis. But this is not about effort. It is about a rupture between wages and shelter. Housing stopped being treated as a basic need and began behaving like a financial asset. Its value now responds more to capital movement than to human necessity. When shelter becomes an investment vehicle, those who need it most compete with those who do not need it at all. The quiet shock is realizing that the traditional life script still plays in your head, even though the stage has collapsed beneath it. The problem is not that you cannot keep up. The problem is that the system no longer expects you to. This gap between income and housing did not appear by chance. It is the result of many decisions layered over time, each reasonable on its own, but destabilizing together. Cities restricted new construction in the name of preservation, safety, or order. Supply tightened where demand was strongest. At the same time, global capital grew larger, faster, and more mobile. Money began searching for places to sit safely. Housing, once local and practical, became an attractive target. Low interest rates amplified this shift. Borrowing became cheap for those who already had assets. Prices rose, not because homes improved, but because money had nowhere else to go. Housing absorbed it. Wages did not follow. Productivity increased. Economies expanded. Income remained anchored. The link between work and shelter weakened year by year. This is not a moral failure. It is a design outcome. The effects extend far beyond real estate. Families delay or abandon plans for children. Workers stay in jobs they dislike because moving is too expensive. Opportunities are declined, not from lack of ambition, but from lack of housing access. Young people are told to save, but saving loses meaning when targets move faster than progress. This is not irresponsibility. It is a rational response to a broken signal. What we are seeing is not a personal housing crisis repeated millions of times. It is a systemic failure unfolding quietly across societies. A basic human need has been financialized to the point where participation is optional for capital, but not for people. When shelter stops reflecting local lives and starts reflecting global balance sheets, the future narrows. Mobility declines. Risk-taking fades. Life becomes smaller, not by choice, but by constraint. The most important realization is simple. Your struggle is not evidence of inadequacy. It is evidence of misalignment. Housing did not become unaffordable because people changed. It became unaffordable because the system did. If this tension feels familiar, it is because you are living inside it. The numbers you run in your head are not abstract. They shape real decisions. Where you live, what you delay, what you quietly let go of. Many people carry this experience alone. They assume it is personal, temporary, or somehow their fault. But this pattern repeats across countries, cities, and generations. Different languages, same math. Sharing your experience is not about complaint. It is about clarity. When patterns become visible, shame loosens its hold. What feels like an individual struggle starts to look like a shared condition. How has this housing reality shaped your choices? Did it change where you work, whether you plan to settle down, how you think about the future? There is no correct answer, only honest ones. The old promise still echoes in culture, but reality has moved on. Understanding that gap is the first step towards seeing your situation clearly, without blame. Your story is not an exception. It is part of a larger shift that is still unfolding.